There was a lot of scoring on the field on Saturday, but for Oregon, the scoring started even before kickoff. A massive pregame commitment from defensive lineman Aiden Breelan got things going on Saturday. Now, he's just the latest addition to the Ducks, but they are not done. Breelan goes 6'4", 300 pounds, chose Oregon over Miami and Georgia, a massive pickup, like I said, because Oregon now sits at 24 commitments for the 2024 class. And Aiden Breelan launched the Ducks into the top 10, now sitting at number 7 nationally in the On3 recruiting rankings. Oregon fans, exciting time, and there's much more to come. So hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get us to 20K. Help me out and hit subscribe. Let's bring on Justin Hopkins of ScoopDuck. All right. As I said, Aiden Breelan out of the state of California commits, but the real prize is down there in Arizona. We're going to stay in California for now, though. Jericho Johnson, 4-star defensive lineman, trending heavily towards the Ducks at 87%. But right behind him, I see Washington. So I got to ask, are the Huskies a threat? And also, when do you expect Johnson to announce a decision?
Yeah, the Huskies are 1,000% a threat. I think they're the biggest threat to Oregon for Johnson. And he was, in fact, in Seattle this weekend, was at the game yesterday between the Ducks and Huskies. So he saw the outcome, saw everything firsthand. You know, we both know that the visit's great, that the outcome of the game weighs a lot less on a recruit versus, you know, the atmosphere and the coaching staff and all of those other things they're looking at. So I think that's the battle. I fully believe that Washington is the biggest threat to Oregon, and I think they're in it. You know, if you want to kind of get nitpicky, the Ducks have a really strong defensive line class coming together already. So you start to wonder if maybe some of those numbers give him a little bit of pause and look at Washington where, hey, I'd be the guy there. At Oregon, I do have competition, which isn't a bad thing. So, but I do believe the Ducks are the team to beat. I do believe that he will take a visit to Oregon once again. I believe he'll actually be there this weekend, if I recall correctly. And as far as the decision goes, he doesn't seem to be anyone that's in any big hurry at all. So, I think we're looking at, November, December decision from him right now.
Okay. Now, let's go down to Arizona. It's time. I teased it at the top, but Elijah Rushing, he decommitted from Arizona just over a week ago. And I'll be honest, really, since his decommitment, the only team that we've seriously heard involved with him is Oregon. Now, if the commitment doesn't come in the coming days, which I'm not expecting, what teams are you watching to enter the mix? Because we know this isn't just going to be a one-team battle here.
100%. I think I revert back to his original commitment when Tennessee and Notre Dame were huge factors in his recruitment. I'm sure that they're, picked up the phone and they're having conversations. Maybe we just haven't heard about it yet. Maybe he just really likes Oregon and he's kind of focused on them at the moment. Another one that I could see jumping in the mix just because of how well they've recruited and Arizona's a state they can get into is a school like Texas. You wonder if Steve Sarkisian starts working the phone with Rushing and getting involved there. And then, I think Washington probably makes a phone call. I'm sure USC has as well. So you got to start to wonder about some of those current Pac-12 schools getting involved. But like you said, all the chatter's pointed to Oregon right now, which seems to be a good thing for the Ducks. I mean, if they could snag 2 5-star defensive linemen in this recruiting cycle, I'm sure, Dan Lanning would fire up another cigar for that one.
Yeah. Do you think that there's any chance he could make an earlier decision than expected? Can Oregon get him to shut this down and lock in another 5-star?
So the thing I've noticed so far, at least with Rushing, he was very, very generous about recruiting interviews originally, and he hasn't done a lot since his decommitment, which tells me that I just think that maybe he's really not wanting to go through the process fully again. And, lots of phone calls, lots of messages. It can be tiresome for some people. Some recruits love it, some don't. So to me, it just kind of, reading his persona, if you will, I could see him making a decision sooner than later if he just feels like Oregon's the school he wants to be at.
All right. Well, top 100 wide receiver Jeremiah McClellan out of St. Louis, Missouri. He was in for an unofficial visit in late September to Oregon, and he took an official over the summer, but he committed to Ohio State. Now, it's been about 3 weeks since his most recent visit to Oregon. What are you hearing in terms of the buzz around Duck's chances to flip him?
Well, our own Chad Simmons had an interview with him last week, and in the interview, he certainly seemed to indicate Oregon was probably the biggest threat at this time to Ohio State. Now, he did say he remains committed to Ohio State, and he said all the right things. I know Missouri's out there, but I think that last trip to Oregon really put them in a serious contention spot. Now, he's talking about coming back out for a visit again. He's talking about visiting Missouri. It'll be interesting to see, if those two things happen. I think the Ducks do need to get him back on campus again if they can, especially if he's going to, maybe make a early signing decision in December, get him back in late November or December. But yeah, there's a lot of buzz around Oregon right now. And I feel like the Ducks are definitely the biggest threat to Ohio State at the moment.
All right, let's talk about one last priority target for the Ducks, and that's 5-star offensive tackle Jordan Seaton, the number 2 ranked offensive tackle in the country. Yesterday, he texted me. I was watching football. He didn't go anywhere this weekend, so I guess he had some downtime. But he texted me and said that he's going to have some big news for me this week. I assume it's going to be visit plan news because I don't think he's in any rush to decide. So right when he texted me that, a couple schools went off in my head. I thought maybe Florida State, maybe Oklahoma, maybe South Carolina. But obviously Oregon is also a school that he's highly interested in. And do you think that things are still, going on between Oregon and Jordan Seaton to the point where he could potentially come in for a visit?
Yes, I 100% do. I know Seaton was on record also this week basically saying Oregon's recruiting him as hard as anybody, maybe harder than everybody currently. And I know right now the Ducks currently have 2 big weekends that they're trying to bring in, official and unofficial visitors for. And that's this coming weekend versus Washington State at home. And then in a few weeks when USC comes to town mid-November. So as far as Seaton is concerned, whether this is his news or not, I would expect that if he's going to visit Oregon, which I believe he will, it would be one of those 2 weekends. So, perhaps we're reading too much into it, but I certainly think Oregon is in the mix. And I think a visit to Oregon probably takes place for him within the next month.
Yeah, and he's been making the rounds this fall. He's been to Florida, he's been to Alabama, he's been out to Colorado, he's been to Tennessee. So I think he still has a couple more trips in him before a decision comes. Not really expecting anything until December for Jordan Seaton, so Oregon fans hold tight there. Justin Hopkins, thanks for checking in, talking Oregon recruiting on what could have been a great weekend. It's just, they still got the Aiden Breelan commitment, but you'd like to see a win on the field.
Yeah, I'm sure if we had Dan Lanning on the show right now, he'd probably be telling us he would have loved to get a win yesterday. But it was a great game. Huskies are a good team, and Oregon will rebound just fine.
Well, this is a recruiting show, so the recruiting wins count a little bit more. Thanks, Justin. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.